welcome in to the Cover 5 podcast. I am your host, Jordan Vanek. You can find me over on Twitter at Jordan Vanek DFS. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Hilo. You can find him on Twitter at HiloFF. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody that has been tuning into this show. And let's get into this Week 12 DFS slate. Hilo, overall, how are you feeling about this one? It's such a short slate because we got those 3 Thanksgiving games. We have a game in just about an hour with the Dolphins and the Jets. So it's a much shorter slate this weekend.
Yeah, but it's not any shorter than what we've kind of become accustomed to during these buys, right? I mean, because there's no team on bye, so we have the 3 games that were played on Thanksgiving. We have the 1 game today on Friday, but that's still just 4 teams missing from what we're used to. So we still get, 10 games on the main slate, which is kind of something that we're used to. Over the last, I think 3 out of the last 4 weeks, we've had 10 gamers on the main slate. So
that London game, those over, or Germany, I guess, has been the recent ones. But this weekend actually has, I feel like all the good teams are starting to start playing each other in these regular season games, and as a result, we have so many inadequate teams playing each other. But as always, for this show, we'll be talking about 5 games from a DFS perspective. Kick it off to you, Hilo. You chose the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Indianapolis Colts, the good old battle of cover 3 coverage. Tell me what you love about it.
Yeah, well, you break these teams down. Like Indianapolis, obviously, they're running the highest rate of zone coverage. They're running the highest rate of cover 3 in the league. You look at Tampa Bay, they blitz a ton, but they're not getting home. They're generating below average 21.4% pressure rate. And then they're playing league average rates of man and zone coverage. When they're in man, it's almost unanimously cover 1. And when they're in zone, it's the second highest rate of cover 3 in the league. So what's important about that is, one, the offensive tendencies we've seen from Indy have kind of harbored solid game environments this year for us. They play with pace. They're not afraid to let loose if either the matchup or the game environment kind of dictate. And the opponent kind of does dictate that in this spot, because we have Tampa Bay, who is seeing top 5 rates of passing pass plays per game called against them. And that's almost directly a result of Vita Vea and how solid he has been. You look at their coaching staff too, it makes sense that they are one of the better run defenses in the league. They're one of only 2 teams to not allow a rushing score by a running back this season. The other is Atlanta. So everything very clearly we can be a little bit more certain about how these teams are going to behave in this spot. Shane Steichen obviously is a first-year head coach, but he is a coach that has shown us that he's not afraid to attack the deficiencies of an opposing team. So that is very clearly through the air. And when you get cover 3, when you get cover 1 for Tampa Bay, those are 2 coverages that harbor the ability for a quarterback to target his first read. That's typically what we see, is quarterbacks are able to target their first read at an elevated rate against both cover 1 and cover 3. On the other side, for Indy, they're playing cover 3, which is, again, another shell of a defense that allows the opposing quarterback to target their first read. Their first read in this offense, on these respective offenses, have been Mike Evans at a high rate and Michael Pittman at a high rate. Although we have rookie Josh Downs, who's kind of entering that discussion for the Colts as well. So Mike Evans is very clearly the top dog on this Indy Colts offense against man coverage, against cover 1. He leads the team in all predictive metrics: targets per route run, yards per route run, fantasy points per route run, all those things. Josh Downs actually leads the team in yards per route run, targets per route run, and fantasy points per route run against zone coverage this season. So that is very interesting. And when you look at Shane Steichen's offensive tendencies, there is a very clear path for Gardner Minshew. Thank you. Crushed it. For Gardner Minshew to see 40 plus pass attempts in this spot. He has a game of 55 pass attempts this year. So there's a team that's very clearly okay with opening things up if they need to. So that kind of all comes together. We have a up-tempo offense in Indy. We have an offense that is not afraid to lean into the pass if they need to. We have a very concentrated offense through the air. And on the other side, we have pieces that can exploit cover 3 coverages. So you've got Rachaad White, who is seeing a lot of usage through the air. You've got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, who can exploit cover 3. So it's more likely that the Colts are forced to the air in this spot than a standard matchup. And when that is the case, and when they're playing with tempo, we could see this game develop into something with offensive fireworks. I'm not afraid to play Gardner Minshew in this spot, priced at only 5,100. I think if you play Gardner Minshew, the natural tendency is going to be to only stack him with one or the other of Michael Pittman and Josh Downs. I would say it's probably theoretically optimal to play him in conjunction with both of those guys, because we've seen Michael Pittman be the target hog, but in his low to moderate A-dot role, he has to see, I mean, he's surpassed 100 yards receiving once this season, and it happened with 14 targets. So that's kind of what he needs to get over that threshold. So if he is not overly contributing to the yardage total for Gardner Minshew, he probably needs a guy like Josh Downs to get him there as well. So I'm not afraid to play those guys with Gardner Minshew. I'm not afraid to bring it back with Rachaad White or Mike Evans. Chris Godwin's kind of not it for me this week. But I think there's a lot of upside to play to this game environment. And I'd be much more inclined to play those guys as a game environment bet, as opposed to trying to find one-offs there.
I agree with you on the Minshew side of things. I think it's Downs and Pittman to get him to be what you want in GPPs. I think, like, from a cash games perspective, if you're going to go and play that, I think you can just go with one of them. And I would go with Pittman just because, again, against cover 3, he's been the main target. It's 7% higher target share, but also we got to remember Josh Downs was in a weird spot to begin the year. He's been battling a knee injury that he mentioned in Frankfurt that it's been months. It's just kind of shown up and kind of popped up to enough where they, mark it down, but he's been battling through it. Right now there's some injury news with the Tampa Bay side of things at their cornerback position, because if they lose one of these corners, it's Zion
like
McCollum
we saw last week. Yeah.
Zion McCollum comes on the field. I'm very happy to have said I played Brandon Ayuk overs. It was really, really easy to plug him in against that cover 3 look, because they just live in it, and that's just what they stay in. And I've mentioned it all season long with them if you followed me through. So for me, Pittman's a strong play. Downs is obviously how you get there with Minshew. And on the other side, it is just Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Like, I don't see any other pass catchers getting there. Obviously, Rachaad White, from his volume perspective, can find his way to being a good run back here. I think on this small of a slate, or on this 10-game slate, if you run that Minshew stack, getting Rachaad White and Mike Evans would be the way I would play a large field tournament, because I want that shootout. Like, I don't think Minshew's throwing for 300, 370, bringing Downs and Pittman along without the Buccaneers also pushing them and kind of treating it similar to like the Texans game to an extent.
Yeah.
Like, you need, because again, Tampa is going to do everything they can to shut down Jonathan Taylor. I will say the Colts against these really elite run defenses, they've put up a show offensively, running the ball. Like, I remember when they went into Baltimore and when Minshew's first start, and I was just looking at Zach Moss, and I'm like, it's Zach Moss. That's the start. And then it's also the Colts, who I don't know if Shane Steichen's going to be that good of a runner or rushing attack, but they ran all over Baltimore, which was like surprising early in the season. And then against Cleveland, they ran for 168. And it's like, Cleveland's another team that really good. And then they passed for 288 against Cleveland. Like, Tennessee Titans, that was the other one that I was thinking of. They ran for 193 against them. So if you're not attacking this game from the Minshew side of things, and you want the leverage off of how popular Pittman will probably be this weekend, I don't mind Jonathan Taylor. Just from that aspect of, they've been really good against some of these elite run defenses, and I know Tampa Bay is one of those teams. Jonathan Taylor is a really good player that could just be overlooked in this spot because of the projected matchup and a Jonathan Taylor. Actually, Jonathan Taylor's coming in popular.
Extreme ownership, yeah.
That's crazy.
Trey McBride at the top again for the 4th week in a row.
I did not expect Jonathan Taylor to be that played because I saw Pittman was one of the highest played. I don't think that's right. I'm seeing Pittman as the highest projected receiver and Taylor the highest projected owned running back. Mm-hmm. Oh, that makes one of my plays later on in the show going to be phenomenal. I did not realize that. That's crazy. Well, later on in the show, I'll have a running back that I'm now even more in love with than I was before. But do you have anything else you'd like to add about this game?
Nope.
Okay. So moving forward to the Jaguars are playing the Houston Texans. And right now, the Texans are kind of underplayed because now their pricing is matching what they've been doing. Where CJ Stroud 7,700, Tank Dell is 6,900. Man,
flippening.
I have 33% Tank Dell and underdog. That
Let's go.
Feels so good. But in this spot, I love Nico Collins. I know he's disappointed to what he had done early in the season, but he's coming off a game which is second game back from injury. He had 11 targets. Like, it didn't produce to the GPP level of what Dell did. Dell balled out. Dell put on a show, like clinic out there. But in this matchup against the Jaguars, like, we just saw the Jaguars play the San Francisco 49ers just 2 weeks ago. This Texans offense is something that I am comparing to the 49ers, and obviously it's not identical. It's not, they don't have Christian McCaffrey back there. They don't have Trenton Williams blocking for them. They don't have George Kittle, and obviously they're missing some things, but the efficiency levels of, like, when a team blitzes, when they see certain looks and they see a team live in a certain coverage, they just exploit it. Like, you have to be changing things up, and the Jaguars didn't against San Fran, and they didn't really blitz San Fran. They came on only 7% of drop back, or no, sorry, they did blitz San Fran. And Brock Purdy made them pay. Brock Purdy, I think, put up a perfect passer rating, if I'm not mistaken, which was one of the back-to-back weeks where he did that. CJ Stroud here can have another explosion game. They bring 5 at a top 10 rate. They play a ton of cover 3. Sets up for CJ Stroud to be in another spot where he's throwing the ball. And yes, the Jaguars get a little bit more pressure than, like, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when they bring 5. That just kind of means CJ Stroud's going to extend plays. And he's also a runner. Like, we might pick up 30 rushing yards here in this matchup, which always helps. And on the flip side, the Jaguars are coming in extremely popular in their passing game. I do not like the matchup. D'Amico's starting to get his cover 4 type scheme that he ran in San Fran and getting it over to Houston. And again, it takes a little bit for them to get this going, but he's starting to run it at a high rate. Trevor Lawrence is one of the worst passers against quarters coverage on the entire season. Tennessee did not really run that this past weekend. They gave them a lot of cover 3. And yes, Zay Jones is back. Yes, Calvin Ridley's moving around the formation and getting into better matchups. But if the Texans can find a way to stay in quarters, the only player that I have a lot of interest in here is Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk's extremely popular. I think he would be my run back in this specific matchup. And the reason is that he's got a 32% target share against cover 4. It's extremely high for a team that, for the majority of the year, they've had everybody. And Christian Kirk wasn't even a full-time player in the beginning of the season, which was kind of funny. They were mixing around with more 12 personnel looks against the Colts. But anyways, for me in this game, I love the CJ Stroud side. I'm not afraid of the pricing. I know that it's a tough, one to bite off, but I think there's some value in other games that we'll get to later on. And the run back here for me is Christian Kirk. Hilo, how do you feel about this one?
Yeah, I think you can go to Christian Kirk. I think you can go to Evan Ingram. I'm not interested in either. I'm kind of aligned with you there. I'd rather just go a Stroud double. Honestly, I think Nico Collins is my preferred option, but I don't think you can discount what Tank Dell has done. No. At all. But Nico Collins is almost in lockstep in most predictive metrics against zone coverage this season. The only, well, I'll just leave that alone. There's Nico Collins is 0.46 fantasy points per route run against zone coverage, which is top 12 in the league. Tank Dell is 0.43, which is top 18 in the league. So both these guys have been extremely efficient against zone coverage, and they're going to see a lot of it here against the Jags. So I think you can play CJ Stroud doubles, and I would keep it to Nico and Tank. And I think that the field is probably not going to do that now because of the kind of pricing psychology that is associated with those players. People look at Nico Collins, they're like, oh, his price is coming down because he hasn't performed. I'm not going to play him. People look at Tank Dell and they're like, his price has skyrocketed. I missed my chance to play him. Same thing for CJ Stroud. So it's these guys, this combination of these three guys is probably going to be extremely low owned on the slate.
I agree. And again, the Jaguars are coming in very, very popular right now. I think it's a spot where you're right on the fact that you don't necessarily need to force a run back, but obviously it's viable to, if I do, I'm playing Christian Kirk with it. I don't think I really want to go to Ingram. It's just the Texans are a weird team when it comes to how they utilize their nickel packaging and how they kind of defend some of these receiving type tight ends. They don't usually give them the smaller matchup. And also the Texans slot corner is very aggressive and very, very good at pressing you at the line of scrimmage. I remember the Houston game, and I remember last weekend, Rondale Moore bombed him on the second play of the game, and I think that's the only catch Rondale Moore had the entire game. I could be wrong, but it felt so.
And that was I completely poo-pooed all over Rondale Moore as chalk piece on that slate, and he comes out, puts up a 48-yard touchdown on the opening drive. I'm like, great, this is going to be awesome. And then he saw 6 rushing yards for the rest of the game, and that was it.
Yeah, no, it was a strange one, but that's all I've got for the Jaguars Texans. Let's move on to another. We just love the AFC South this week. I don't know why you picked this game, so I'm going to let you explain to me what is good about the Carolina Panthers facing the Tennessee Titans.
Looking at ownership, let's look at ownership real quick on these Tennessee Titans. I'm going to pull it up so I get this right. Let's look here. Oh, okay, it's loading.
Derrick Henry's that low owned?
Exactly. Exactly.
That feels wrong.
Derrick Henry, dude. I don't know what else to say, other than Derrick Henry, the matchup isn't the most important thing for his workload. It's the most important thing for his efficiency. The most important thing for his workload is a close game. Even in blowouts, they'll take him off the field. And when they're playing behind, they'll take him off the field. In close games, they're going to run their offense through Derrick Henry. It just so happens that this week he has the matchup as well against the Carolina Panthers team that is one of the most run funnel teams in the league. So you put those two things together, Derrick Henry in a good matchup, expected to get volume, which he still has paths to 30 plus carry games. That is still there because his touch to snap ratio is amongst the highest in the league still. So when he's on the field, he's seeing rushing attempts. And if he's going to be on the field more because this game is close, he's going to see more rushing attempts. So we have a spot where now he's priced all the way down at 6,400 or something insane.
Yeah, he's 100 less than Bijan Robinson.
When was the last time we saw Derrick Henry priced this low? I know last week he was priced at 6,300, but it's we haven't seen Derrick Henry priced this low in years.
In a good matchup, too.
In a good matchup. So this whole spot revolves around Derrick Henry for me. I don't think you need to mess around with anything else, but the spot was that good for Derrick Henry at an ownership level that made my eyes double take to the point where I wanted to talk about this game because because of Derrick Henry. That's really it, dude. And like, they're at home. They're playing a run-funneled team who bleeds production, giving up the most rushing scores in the league. Like, I don't know what else we want from this. Like, Derrick Henry very clearly has passed to 102 on the ground and the potential for some aerial work because of his new role this year. So this is one of the top plays on the slate from a just pure median projection versus ownership. And then add in the salary and it's that good. So I want to talk about it a little bit.
No, it makes sense. Derrick Henry is that is really, really bad. I don't know if that's going to come true. Like, I feel like that has to rise. I don't, I could be wrong. I could be incorrect here. And if it doesn't, like, yes, Derrick Henry is an auto play at that price. At the fact that I found out that Jonathan Taylor against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for 500 more is getting twice, 3 times the ownership. Like, that's crazy to me. That's a crazy, just good matchup. And I mean, I think you're minning it with Thielen. Frank Wright is taking back the play calling. Yay. That's I think you could have Adam Thielen be the guy for the mini stack. I don't. You're right on the fact that I wouldn't force it. I mean, he's 7,300. Like, if Adam Thielen was 6K, be much more interested. But 7,300, Adam Thielen's getting no love, so it would make you completely unique for some reason. I think, like, looking at Adam Thielen coming in probably sub 2%, because again, he's 7,300. This is an insane price for Adam Thielen at this point of the year. I mean, obviously he's been producing, but no, I don't think there's anything else to add to this game. I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to get a ton of targets. That's all I've got for.
That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, Tennessee is a really, really interesting. They're just a really bad team. So getting Derrick Henry in your lineups seems like the way to go, and an easy one to plug and play. But let's move forward to the next game we're going to talk about. The Rams are facing the Arizona Cardinals. This is a spot where it's just got a lot of value in this game. Like, Michael Wilson just got ruled out. So now we have Kyler Murray, where every single one of his pass catchers is below 5,300.
And below 5'9".
Yeah. Pretty much. Yes.
5'9", that is. 5'9". They're little.
I was like, come on. But
they're my height.
We saw Greg Dortz just run pretty much a full route, or every route Greg Dortz produced. He ran more actual, like, receiving routes than Rondale Moore. Rondale Moore caught the ball in the beginning of the game, but like I said, he didn't have anything else for the rest of the game. But Greg Dortz is 3,300. Rondale Moore's 3,600. And then you have, like, Hollywood, who's 52. And if you remember in that first matchup, Hollywood beat these corners down the field, I think 2 or 3 times this game. Josh Dobbs underthrew him on, I think, all 3 of them, if I'm not mistaken. And it allowed the corner to catch up and knock the ball away, or, interfere with the reception. And Hollywood's just not going to be a contested catch guy. Obviously, this is Kyler Murray's 3rd week back. You see the athleticism's there. You see the idea that his arm talent is still there. He's just getting back to NFL game speed and getting back into rhythm. So for me, I love the matchup against the Rams defense. Rams love to play cover 3, cover 4. They like to put their corners to cover that deep third of the field, and Hollywood Brown is going to get one-on-one matchups on the perimeter. And I believe Kyler can hit him on one of these. And then on the flip side, Rams are going to have Cooper Kupp. He's going to play through an injury. They're at the point in the season where they can't afford to lose one of their games. They waived Darrell Henderson and brought him back to the practice squad because Kyren Williams is back. I think that puts a lot of faith into Kyren. And if they do not elevate Darrell Henderson, I'm assuming Kyren Williams is coming back to this full workload that he had. And if he gets that full workload again, this Arizona run defense is atrocious. They're just a bad run defense. They've been bad pretty much all year. I think the last time they gave up under 100 rushing yards was against the Bengals, if I'm not mistaken. They've given up over 100 basically every week. this is a spot for Kyren Williams with the workload he had. He already had an exceptional game against the Cardinals the first time. Then that was without getting like any touches in the first half. I think the Rams threw the ball in like every single play, it felt like, in the first half. And they're like, wait a minute, we could just hand the ball off. And at this point, with Matt Stafford's injury, Cooper Kupp being hurt, feels like a spot for Kyren Williams. If he's fully healthy, he's going to be running the ball a lot. So Kyren Williams, Marquise Brown mini is one of my favorite plays on this entire slate. And if you're going to go to the Rams pass catchers, I feel like it's a big week for Puka, just because of Cooper Kupp's injury and the fact that Puka is someone that can catch the ball over the middle of the field, take that hit from some of these Cardinal safeties because of the way that they kind of allow you to see the middle of the field, but they're coming down and driving on these slants. How do you feel about this game in general? Do you have any interest in these pass catchers?
I do. So we have Michael Wilson, who's ruled out. We also have Marquise Brown, who got in a limited session with a heel injury Wednesday and then did not practice Thursday or Friday. So he did not practice today. So that is not something we want to see. Yeah, that's not something we want to see. So if that's the case, Greg Dortch, who in my eyes is the type of wide receiver that everyone wants Rondale Moore to be, he's actually like a good wide receiver. He can actually run routes. He can actually do stuff with the ball in his hands. And he actually has an ADOT beyond negative. All those things. Like, it just blew my mind that people wanted to play Rondale Moore last week at chalk with a 3.3 ADOT. Come on, man. What was we doing? Anyway, I digress. Greg Dortch, to me, is everything that everyone wants Rondale Moore to be as a pass catcher. So I love Rondale Moore. I agree with you, Kyren Williams. The fact that they released Darrell Henderson, they're like, brought him back in because he had familiarity and they knew that he could pass block. He does exactly what they want him to do. They activate Kyren and send him to the curb. That was 1, messed up. 2, hilarious. 3, I feel bad for the guy. But anyway, so he did everything they wanted him to do. But yeah, in that discussion, the fact that Kyren Williams and the fact that Sean McVay has wanted and placed so much emphasis on pass protection from his backfield this season leads me to believe that they released Darrell Henderson again. So that comes into this equation that I think that they are ready to immediately give Kyren the full workload that he had been getting at only 6,600. And I say only because he has a very clear chance of breaking 100 yards. Now it's just a matter of touchdown variance working in his favor. Could return one of the top like point per dollar running back scores on the slate. So yeah, my interest is kind of Kyren plus Greg Dortch. Even more so if Hollywood does not play, which currently looks like he's probably on the worst side of questionable.
Yeah. DNP is 2 days in a row is not ideal. I missed that entirely, so I apologize for those that saw me say that. But Greg Dortch is someone that, yes, Greg Dortch, and it makes Kyler Murray a bit more appetizing just because of the fact that like you can clearly just play Kyler, Dortch, Trey McBride.
Yeah, and I think that is the way that is the only way I would play Trey McBride, I think. Again, the 4th freaking main slate in a row, Trey McBride is the expected highest ownership on the slate for the 4th freaking consecutive week. And I keep cautioning, like, this guy, he's great. The story's great. I have him in like season-long leagues. I love his production. His first breakout game, 80% of his damn production came on a final drive after a onside kick recovery. And he scored on a touchdown where it should have been blown dead because his forward progress was stopped like 4 times. He was pushed in a pile from the 5-yard line.
They need to into the end zone. That's a big. I hate that. I hate the fact that we're allowed to push players forward.
Yeah,
I think if that's the case, we should be able to push players backwards.
Yeah,
but besides the fact,
his other game where he provided like a solid GPP winning score. I mean, he's done it 2 in the last 4 weeks. So like that, it's been good. But the way that he's got there, the other one was a 31-yard reception after he put up 98 receiving yards in the first 2 quarters, and then did not catch another pass until the final hit, like a final 2-minute drive offense to try and kick a field goal to lose the first overall pick, whatever. That's besides the point. But anyway, yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome, Chicago. Anyway, it was an underthrown ball, 31 yards, gets him over 100 yards and makes him GPP viable again. All that discussion notwithstanding, he very clearly has like the upside. It's been very, very specific, nuanced situations and outcomes that have allowed him to return that. So now that he's priced at 4,700 and there's other tight ends around him where the field is going to play, like Dalton Kincaid, like Dalton Schultz, Trey McBride, those 3 guys, Evan Ingram, those guys are all priced at 4,200 and above, below Travis Kelce, who's now on the slate. We're expecting a large chunk of ownership to go onto those 4 guys this week. So all that considered, it's like I would rather just play Greg Dortch and not worry about that. You can play Greg Dortch and Trey McBride. You can do it with Kyler. You can do it without Kyler. But I'm kind of just like on this Kyron, just play the best plays on paper. And it's like Greg Dortch and it's Kyron Williams. Yeah, that's my spiel on that situation.
No, you're good. I Trey McBride just continues to hurt me. I don't need to bring it up. He just says every week, and it's like I'm just gonna keep doing it because this is unfair. He is way too popular for a tight end, but it doesn't matter. Last week I made a big what's the word I want to say? Blunder.
Boo boo.
Yeah, Ayuk and Kittle should have been my stack with Purdy. I
did that.
I
wrote that up.
Huh?
I wrote that up.
Same. I just no. I basically I was like Ayuk's the must, and then it was like coin flip, Devo or Kittle, and Pat Freiermuth at 2,500 wasn't popular enough to me to fade, and he wasn't popular, and I'm like this guy, and then he just didn't do anything because it's the Steelers' offense and Matt Canada. I should have thought about that a little bit.
Yeah, hooray, he's gone. Woo.
Yeah, I don't know if their offense is going to be fixed. But speaking of the team that fired their offensive coordinator, the last game we're going to talk about is the highest over-under on the slate. The Buffalo Bills are traveling to Philly to take on the Eagles. Josh Allen is now exclusively running out of 11 personnel, meaning there are 3 receivers on the field. Those 3 receivers are Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, Khalil Shakir, and Dalton Kincaid. Rewatching that Jets game, Joe Brady made it simple. And what I mean by that is Gabe Davis is not going to be a PPR guy. Gabe Davis reverted to 60% of his routes when he's a full-time player was 7 to 9. You're running clear posts, clear corners, goes. You are just not touching the middle of the field.
That's fine. Yep. To be honest, that's fine.
That's how he should operate.
Yeah, that's great.
And it's going to be a boom and bust Gabe Davis now. Stephon Diggs, we took back some of the 7 to 9 routes and he increased his usage over the middle of the field, which helps Stephon Diggs get the layup throws. Josh Allen missed them on a few of them because, again, new offense. Jets defense is really good.
Yeah.
This defense is also randomly just starting fights for no reason. And then biggest piece, yeah,
they're pissed off.
they're not happy. But the biggest piece of their offense that's in a full-time role now, it's Khalil Shakir. Khalil Shakir is going to operate in this intermediate portion, short area. He's not going to give you he shouldn't give you a ton of down the field stuff, but he can give you a lot of over the middle stuff with Kincaid. Both of these guys are basically getting the benefit of like, hey, Gabe's going to clear this area of the field for you. The attention's going to go to Diggs. We need you on like 3 to 4 chunk plays a game. When they get that, their offense is going to run smooth. Ty Johnson came in and caught a wheel route that went for a touchdown, which took away a lot there, but whatever. He ran like 6 routes. He just happened to get the play call. Yeah. It was just a really good, it was a really good play call by Joe Brady, but like they didn't change much offensively. They just changed some of the specific roles that these guys have. So against this Philadelphia defense, go with the Josh Allen stack. And Khalil Shakir, I think, should be a part of it. Khalil Shakir at his price at $3,600 in a full-time role is just way too cheap for what his usage is going to be. And he's not going to leave the field. Like, they're going to keep him on the field over Trent Sherfield, over Deontay Hardy, and we're getting a full-time player with Josh Allen at a very reduced price in a role that Joe Brady is going to try to bring back to him, because the best Josh Allen is the one that's taking these over the middle curl routes, quick stuff to just get the offense in more 3rd and 3s, or get the offense to just get a simple first down on 1st and 10, where we're going down the field. In a Philadelphia defense, their secondary is it hasn't worked. I don't know how else to put it. I know Mahomes threw for 168. I promise you, if Mahomes had any ounce of a receiving core, he would have threw.
It would have been 300 if they didn't have 6 drops.
Dallas threw for 330 and 3 touchdowns. They are on a rhythm right now. Dak is playing at an MVP level. Cool. Washington threw for 388 and 4 touchdowns. Washington's not a team that, like, Dallas just went to played Washington, and they didn't look like they could throw the ball that well. So for me in this matchup, it's simple with, like, you can attack that Josh Allen side of things and get a cheap 3,600 that allows you to kind of get to this game stack. And I know that he's probably going to be more popular as people kind of get to it. And then you have Dalton Kincaid, obviously the tight end position. We know the state of it with Trey McBride being so popular. Dalton Kincaid is a guy that's going to be less there, but obviously I think he's going to be a part of that. And Philly's a weird team. I want to see how Kevin Byard continues to play for them, because Kevin Byard was in Kelsey, like on Kelsey the whole game, it felt like, and he did a very good job limiting Travis Kelsey. So for me, Kincaid, are they going to do that with a rookie? Are they going to do that in a team that's going to run a lot of 11 instead of the Chiefs that run a lot of the 12 personnel? That's something to change. And then on the flip side, like, Philly's at home. Jason Kelsey talked on the podcast that in Arrowhead, their communication issues were a big problem in the first half. As a result, Jalen Hurts got sacked 5 times in the first half, 4 times? 5, and it was like, what's going on? Why is Lane Johnson just letting Chris Jones run by him and get to Jalen Hurts? And it was just communication issues. They resolved that in the second half, and then Kansas City could not get after him at all. And now they're at home, so the offensive line, I think, is going to have a massive advantage against the Bills. And from a communication standpoint, like, Jalen Hurts is going to have time to throw. This Bills defense, the injuries that they have to this team, like, they just don't have stars on the defensive side of the ball. Tre'Davious White being out for the year, Matt Milano being out for the year, Daquan Jones being out for the year. Like, they have a ton of key guys being out for the season. A.J. Brown just had a game that he underperformed to his standard, but Kansas City's defense is lights out. They're one of the best defenses in the NFL. So for me, I think this is an A.J. Brown bounce back spot. His price is the only thing that's like, if he bounces back for 26, it still won't really kill you in a GPP probably. I know this slate is a little bit murky, but at 9K, it's really hard to justify. And then obviously with Dallas Goedert most likely not being in the lineup due to the broken forearm that he has, you're going to see Devontae Smith see elevated targets and kind of make more plays or be expected and called upon. Obviously with the matchup against the Bills secondary, where their corners are beat up, there's a ton of players on the injury report, and they'll have an advantage out wide. But the main thing that I absolutely love in this game is DeAndre Swift. When defenses go into a nickel package against Philly, DeAndre Swift is averaging 2.3 yards before contact. The Bills only run nickel. They don't care if you put 2 tight ends on the field. They don't care how you try to operate as an offense. Philly's offense line is something they haven't faced all season long. The Buffalo Bills have had the benefit of the doubt not benefit of the doubt, they've played some just awful rushing teams this year. You look at their game log. The Jets, the Broncos, Bengals, Buccaneers, Patriots, Giants. The last team they played that has a running back that is skilled with the offensive line that's skilled, and obviously the added threat of Jalen Hurts, who is a really good runner that's a little banged up, it's probably the Jaguars in London. We saw them run for 200 yards. For me, DeAndre Swift is going to be in a fantastic spot. And if Jonathan Taylor is going to come in at freaking 30%, 40% in some small fields, DeAndre Swift at 6,800, he's playable with Jalen Hurts. Like, DeAndre Swift can run for 120 and one. They do the tush put or brotherly shove for two of those because you're going to get the rushing touchdowns of Philly there. It's a great spot for him. And also, if Philly can go 12 against the Bills, again, the Bills stay in nickel. DeAndre Swift's averaging 6.7 yards per carry on like 32 attempts. I don't know if it feels like a 3 RB build week for me. I don't know how you feel like right now about this, but there are so many running backs in my wow, that's a great ceiling, and they're all under 7K. So
yeah,
I think you can go with a Jalen Hurts, Swift, AJ Brown, and play Shakir and Stephon Diggs if you just want to go full game stack it. Obviously, you could go the Josh Allen side of things, Josh Allen with 2 pass catchers, and then run it back with Swift. There's a lot of ways to stack this game, and I don't think it's going to get as much popularity as it should based on how high priced some of these guys are. Ilo, how are you? What are you feeling about this game?
Real quick on Khalil Shakir. He's played 65% or more of the offensive snaps in every game that Dawson Knox has missed, which has been the last 4. So 65% snap rate, 71, 76, 74. So it's a very clear defined role, which is a like standard 11 personnel across the league rate type role. Even so, he's not necessarily like this smash play for me. And I think that he's gonna gain steam after putting up 100 yards and a touchdown on 3 catches. He has seen more than just 4 targets just once all season. It came against Tampa Bay in a very clear like pass funnel matchup. Okay, we might have that here as well, but his red zone target share is 2.2%. So like he's seen a red zone target this season, maybe 2 at that rate. His targets per route run rate is 16.2%. So while he'll be on the field and while he'll be in routes, there's nothing that tells me that he's not like he's going to see more than just the standard 4 to 6 targets that we've seen. What is leading me to that, I guess another contributing factor to that discussion is the change in offensive coordinator and what we saw last week, which was the training wheels. And this is something that I was preaching that it was a possibility going into last weekend was what if the training wheels that were placed on Josh Allen from Ken Dorsey were removed? And the training wheels being all we've heard all year from Ken Dorsey is like, good job, Josh. You didn't take a hit and you didn't throw an interception. You checked it down instead. GG's, good job. You did it. Like, that's not what we want from a fantasy perspective. And what I think changed is he stayed in the pocket and he kept his eyes downfield. He might not have attempted as many downfield passes, but he did see 3 designed quarterback draws last week. And that was something we have not seen over the beginning of the first 11 weeks or 10 weeks of the season with Ken Dorsey. It was, we're going to protect our investment here and we're not going to put this guy in position to get hit. Those 3 rushing, like drawn up quarterback draws did not result in massive production, but those are things that contribute, those designed quarterback draws, quarterback runs, getting the quarterback in a read option or getting him off tackle. Those are what provide upside for rushing. It's not scramble that can help, but that is very, very variant. That's like Kyler Murray now. He's not seeing those designed quarterback runs, but he's able to escape the pocket, and that's going to incur higher variance. So if we're seeing those training wheels off of Josh Allen, I think that hurts the intermediary areas of the field in the short to intermediate role that a guy like Khalil Shakir has. That also probably hurts Dalton Kincaid a little bit. And we've seen this like very, very like consistent role from Dalton Kincaid. Even so, I mean, he's seen 6 to 8 targets in 4 out of his last 5 games, with the outlier being that 11 target game against Cincinnati, where we know their defense is schematically attackable via inline tight ends. So all that, like, the point per dollar range of outcomes for a guy like Khalil Shakir, a guy like Dalton Kincaid, are more narrowed because they have a higher floor but less ceiling in those roles. Compare that to the stark contrast now that we get to a guy like Gabe Davis in that downfield role, a guy like Stephon Diggs, who now is going to get a higher reception rate, which is awesome. Those are the guys that are most interesting to me. Josh Allen, Gabe Davis, and Stephon Diggs. And if you look at historically their hit rates, and this is a nuanced discussion because the definition of hit rate is going to be different for a guy like Gabe Davis, who is in the like salary multiplier range of salary, and then as compared to a guy like Stephon Diggs, where it's more like raw points matter, more so than a salary multiplier. But if you look at their historic hit rates, when Gabe Davis hits, it is also extremely likely over the last 3 seasons. It is also let me finish that thought. It's also extremely likely that Stephon Diggs hits as well. Over the last 3 seasons, back to Gabe Davis's quote unquote breakout year, when in games that Gabe Davis hit, Stephon Diggs was also hitting, we'll say 25 plus fantasy points at his price is classified as hitting at like a 90% frequency. So that is just like, if Gabe Davis is hitting, the offense is humming, and now we're expecting both Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs to hit as well. So in my mind, like, it's most plus EV and high upside to play just like Josh Allen, Gabe Davis, and Stephon Diggs in this spot, because we know their roles right now align pretty well with how we expect Philadelphia's like tendencies, like deficiencies really on defense to bleed production. So that's where I'm at. I think on the flip side of that, I'm more interested in bringing that back, or like a little game environment bet on one of the pass catchers, because we're expecting it to be so concentrated. Furthering that discussion is like Jalen Hurts is very clearly like not at full health right now. Like, yeah, he scored from the tush push again.
It's just how he is, dude. The brotherly shove is just going
to,
it's inevitable. It's just,
yeah.
It's so annoying from a stat keeping perspective, because it's like design run. That is a designed run. That is going to be a designed run for Jalen Hurts, and it's not. It's just they're gonna do it. I hate it.
So like in that discussion, like, and the flip side is the Buffalo run defense is very hard to figure out. It's an enigma.
It's so how do I describe it? If the speed is a step off, I don't know. I look at this Philly like offense line, like they just haven't faced this type of unit. Like, if Jason Kelsey's pulling and gets the opportunity to hit a safety, like, he's gonna demolish that guy. Like, it's gonna get ugly that's why I'm so intrigued with Swift, man. I
think that's a good call.
That's interesting.
Yeah, this is an interesting game. I think that's the best way to put it. Because if you look at like the underlying metrics of the Buffalo run defense, they were, over the first 6 weeks of the season, they were like giving up 5 yards per carry, but they were allowing like the second lowest yards allowed per carry, before contact per carry, which I was like, how does that happen? And it's because if running backs were getting beyond the defensive line into the second levels, their linebackers and their safeties were really struggling to bring running backs down. They had missed tackles, they had schematic issues, and that was leading to like stuffed run, 12-yard run, stuffed run, 17-yard run. So it was kind of like that. And in that setup, I think with this offensive line, I think DeAndre Swift can be extremely explosive. I think it's unlikely that he sees more than 17, 18 carries because that's just what they want him to do. Oh, by the way, like he's picked up some ankle issues. So, I mean, you look at his game logs this year, he has one game over 18 carries, and that was back in week 2 where he had that 28 carry game, 175 yards for a score. So like Swift is just very likely to see 16 to 18 carries. Can he pierce 100 yards, score twice on that? I don't know. He does have the pass game usage to like offset the need for one of those touchdowns, but he's going to need it's a very fine needle to thread. I think he's going to need like 100 yards on the ground, a score, and then like a 3 for 30 receiving line at that price to pay off. So I don't know if I'll be going there. It's very, very interesting at least, but I think like the main pieces of the Eagles that have my interest are Devontae Smith and AJ Brown, because like that the pass offense is just so concentrated if one of the triad misses.
Yeah, no, the pass offense is really simple. It's just AJ Brown and Devonta Smith. It's not really going to go the other way. Like I think you'll see another guy get 3 to 4 targets, and it could be DeAndre Swift. Like
yeah,
they're going to see a ton of that targets. But let's get out of here. Let's give our slate breaker and our favorite value. We'll start with the slate breaker. Hilo, who is your slate breaker this weekend?
It's a tie, dude. I'm gonna name them both. You can't stop me. It's Derrick Henry and Kyren Williams. Both of those guys priced 6,400 and 6,600, and could see the highest workload on the slate and are in good plus matchups. So both of them, play them together, whatever. Both of them, like them, love them.
That for me, the running back position has a lot of intriguing options. So from a slate breaking perspective, I think the receiver is the path to figure it out. And the player to do so for me is Nico Collins. I know Tyson Campbell is, I believe he should be coming back this week. He's been battling injuries all season long. Let me check that practice report. But regardless, again, we've seen, he did not practice with a hamstring injury again. So if he is not out there, they don't have a corner from a size perspective to be able to really match up with Nico Collins. They run a lot of the same coverages that you want Nico Collins to see. And I know Nico hasn't done it from a boom perspective, but on this slate, in this matchup at home, this is a game for Nico Collins to get it done. And he's going to come in probably sub 10% this week, which is phenomenal for him. Hilo, who is your favorite value on the slate?
It's Greg Dortch. It's got to be for me. I think it's the layup on the slate, particularly if Marquise Brown does not play. I think while Dortch is not going to go like unowned, I think Rondell Moore is probably going to have higher ownership than him, and definitely Trey McBride. And we might see like Trey McBride's 30% ownership. We might see that go up to like 40% if Marquise Brown does not play.
So for me, Michael Thomas went to IR.
Oh, are you going to say him, dude? Please.
No, I'm going to say him. I'm going to Rashid Shaheed.
Oh, no, not that. Not him. The other one.
Yeah, him. Not A.T. Perry.
Yeah, dude. He's the direct fill-in for Michael Thomas.
That's fine. Bro, he runs like a giraffe.
That's okay. Giraffes are fucking fast, dude. Have you seen a giraffe run?
I love it. Dog, A.T. Perry was one of my guys for like a deep dynasty stuff. But no,
he's on every practice taxi squad I have.
It's Shaheed from a standpoint of just he's just gonna outrun. Like
that's fair.
I think like I've seen like in my head I'm picturing a lot of the Atlanta touchdowns, and it's a lot of just like DeAndre Hopkins just ran. I mean, he threw AJ Terrell, but we don't know talk about it. Like just down the field, like they don't have that edge rush to kind of get after him. Again, Derek Carr is supposed to play, so it could be a very disappointing one. But Rashid Shaheed he's just such a good deep threat, man. And also the other thing about A.T. Perry that sucks, because
there's nothing that sucks about A.T. Perry. You shut your mouth.
I have more stats about A.T. Perry than anybody needs to know. All right. I'm going to pull it up right now because
I'm not saying I'm playing A.T. Perry. I just thought I was hoping you were going there.
No. A.T. Perry actually had a stat that it blew my mind about Power 5 schools. Let me find. Yeah, only 4 players since 2018 have against Power 5 teams scored 10 or more touchdowns on 7 to 9 routes. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, A.T. Perry.
Let's go, dude. I'm playing.
And then David Sills. David Sills just popped in there. It was West Virginia. It's the Big 12.
Yeah,
Big time of the Power 5. But no, A.T. Perry on a deep ball does make some sense. He's just he needs better cleats. When I was watching him against the Vikings, he kept slipping. It was so funny. That's why I say he runs like a giraffe. The legs, he's so big and just I don't know.
Yeah.
But if he gets the right footing this weekend against Atlanta, yeah, I could see it. I could see him scoring a touchdown.
Deep MME play. We'll leave it
deep.
At that.
Oh yeah, no. If you're a 150 maxer, I'd say 1% ATP.
You'll be triple the field.
Pretty much. But anywho, that is all I have for the Cover 5 podcast. As always, subscribe. Check out all the things we've got coming over the weekend. Hopefully you guys had a happy Thanksgiving, and let's get into that Miami New York Jets game. Hilo, do you have anything else you'd like to add before we close?
Yeah, play Jaylen Warren.
That makes a lot of sense. Steelers should hopefully give him the ball more. It feels like Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard from last year. And to be honest with you, my friend brought it up, and I kind of agree. When the Steelers give Najee Harris the ball, defenders are so used to someone that is just slowly getting there, and they could tackle. Yeah. And then when Jaylen Warren gets the ball, they're like, "Whoa, that guy's so much!" What do you mean? I was there.
It's like the Roadrunner.
It's like Najee Harris makes everybody else on the field slower, and then Jaylen Warren gets to come in and be super fast. It's maybe
Dallas should bring Zeke back. Damn it!
I mean, I feel in a weird way, it feels like it works. But anyways, thanks you guys for tuning in, and hope you enjoyed the show.